Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Bat Around. I'm your host, Paul Valley. He's my co-host, Ryan Blake. We are coming to you live today on a Ravens Saturday. The Ravens taking on the Houston Texans in the divisional round of the playoffs. Lamar Jackson, 1-3 all-time in his playoff career. He has never won a divisional round game. Big day here in Baltimore, and we're going to get you primed and ready to go as we talk some Orioles baseball for the Ravens game today at 4:30. Ryan, how are you, man?
Not too bad, man. Going sledding with some cousins after this game and heading over to my aunt's house for Ravens watch party. So vibes are good, man. I'm excited. Today's going to be fun.
That's awesome, man. I haven't gone sledding in, jeez, I don't know how long it's been since I don't think I've done it at any point in my adult life. Like I cannot
Really?
remember the last time I went sledding. But my dog Brucey, he's sitting here, something stuck under the desk, but this is his first snow this past week, the first snow he's ever seen, and he was happier than a clam, and whatever clams do. I guess he's just happier than a clam.
Happy as a
um,
clam. Yeah, just hanging out in their shell.
yeah,
This is
I
the
guess because
first.
their shell looks like a smile. I don't know, but
Maybe. I don't know where that phrase comes from, honestly. But
he
hey, this is
look it up.
Maryland's first real snow in 2 years, I
2 years.
think. Yeah.
Yeah.
We got like an
Well,
inch last winter.
yeah, Bruce
Um,
Dog never got to take part in any snow activities last year. But this year he was out there playing with the 10-year-old neighbor, just having the time of his life. He was off leash and he was such a good boy off leash. I've never done that with him outside before for that long. And he did a great job. Bruce
it's kind of scary. There's part of me that wants to let a cat or two out in the backyard and prance around in the snow a little bit, but I'm terrified that they're going to run away. And they've got collars with our phone numbers on them, but they're breakaway collars. If they get caught on something, it'll just
break
pop right
away.
off. But yeah, man, that's what it's all about, getting out playing in the snow. My godfather Tim, who passed away a few years ago, he would always wrangle up the cousins every time it snowed and take us over to the high school, and we'd have a great time. So I'm carrying on his legacy and getting my godson and my sisters and a couple other cousins and heading out to the hill. And my thing is, I like to stand on the sleds that you're supposed to lay down on your stomach and go down.
Mm-hmm.
I like to stand on those and challenge myself, see if I can make it all the way down the hill without falling. And it's a pretty big hill, but I don't know, man. It's been a few years since I've had a chance to do it, so we'll see. We'll find out in a couple hours if I've lost my mojo or not.
Well, yeah, now that we've got a little girl here, I can't wait for her to get to be like, 2, and I can take her sledding when it snows. So,
Yeah,
if we're going every 2 years, by the time we get our next snow, she'll be ready to go. So,
that's true.
pretty
Yeah.
exciting. Want to remind you, today's show is brought to you by Superbook. It's not just World Series futures that you can bet at Superbook right now. You can also get a futures bet on which MLB pitcher will finish the season with the most wins. Garrett Cole is the favorite at 14-1, with Spencer Strider just behind at 16-1. And if you're feeling froggy, jump, baby. Grayson Rodriguez currently pays 50-1. When you sign up at Superbook, use the code PressBox23 and you'll receive a same-day first bet match up to $250, win or lose. So head on over to Superbook right now to get your betting fix. Orioles spring training, pitchers and catchers, they report February 14th. It's crazy to say because one, it doesn't feel like it's been 3 months since the season ended, and two, there's a good 8 to 10 inches of snow on the ground outside. But yeah, baby, we're talking the Orioles going to spring training in about 3.5 weeks. So sad for their significant others that's happening on February 14th, Valentine's Day. But we love baseball, so we got to have it on the 14th. First workout, February 15th. First full squad workout scheduled for February 20th. Ryan, it's nice to have the dates. I feel like the dates came out a little bit later than usual for this coming season. But Orioles baseball right around the corner.
Oh yeah, man. We're finally within a month officially. It's exciting every year. You think about new horizons, and it's a different vibe than it has been in years past. I mean, even coming into last year, we were feeling good about it. Having come off an 83 win season, but we just won the American League East, and I think that there's a legitimate chance the Orioles go out and do it again. And so, the start of spring training, I guess the cliche is hope springs eternal, but it's hard for me sometimes to switch into baseball mode when the Ravens are doing so well as they are.
Yeah.
But man, to know that, eventually the Ravens season will end. Ideally, that's with a Super Bowl championship, which actually would be a few days before pitchers and catchers
3 days
report.
before,
So,
yeah.
hey, hopefully we can ride this thing and the Ravens close it out with a Super Bowl. And then just a couple days later, spring workouts are getting started.
Yeah, it would be nice to have just no break. You go from Ravens football to Orioles baseball. Because I'll tell you, man, we don't have basketball or hockey in Baltimore, and I don't like the NBA. I can't get into it. It just there's no defense, and it's just I could go on a tangent about why I don't like the NBA. I don't like the NBA. Okay, Jordan is better than LeBron. Don't like it. And the NHL, I can't get behind the Caps. It's not that I can't get behind the Caps. Like, if I'm going to root for a team, I have a Caps t-shirt upstairs. If I'm going to root for a team, it's going to be the Caps. I just can't get into hockey. Everybody says you got to go to a game first, and then you'll get into it. Maybe that's what the deal is, because I've never been to a game.
So you haven't been to a game?
I've never been to a Cap game. It's
bro, I'm telling you,
sport that I've never attended. It's the only one.
It's right up there with baseball for me. Not quite at baseball, but it's up there in terms of fan experience. I tried the whole Caps thing. It wasn't for me, largely because of my disdain for the Nationals and the Commanders. I never cared for those teams, and it'd be weird for me to root for a team in the same city. I don't know.
Right.
So I've got my teams. I went to a Tampa Bay Lightning game in 2016 when I was actually at spring training for the Orioles, and had the time of my life and started rooting for them. Followed Dame Lillard around the NBA. I was a Blazers fan. Now I'm kind of supporting the Bucks. But I'm with you. NBA is a clear number 4 on that list. But
yeah,
you got to get yourself to a hockey game.
I will eventually. And my company has Caps tickets, so I'm sure we'll be able to find a way to get to a game or two, especially once I become a top producer. But we'll get into that another time. Maybe not on the air. But it'll be nice if the Ravens can go all the way to the Super Bowl February 11th, and then 3 days later the Orioles report to spring training. That's like the dream scenario here, at least for me in Baltimore. So you were just talking about good vibes. We got some more good vibes with the Orioles. Baseball America's top 10, top 100. The Orioles would still have 2 players in their top 10. Top 100 prospects list just came out, and the Orioles have 6 representatives in their top 100. Jackson Holliday at number 1, and this officially marks the 3rd straight season that the Orioles have had the number 1 prospect in all of baseball at the first year rankings by Baseball America. It's the first time it's ever happened in the history of their rankings, and it dates back to 1990. And Bruce is about to make an appearance. And say hi, buddy. But yeah, Jackson Holliday, number 1, following Adley Rutschman and Gunnar Henderson. Samuel Basallo, not on their list at all last year. He jumps all the way up to number 10, a guy who's 19 years old. He's probably going to spend the majority of the season at AAA, who's just been tearing it up. I think he's down in the Dominican Winter League. I think he's been tearing it up too. Kobe Mayo, also not on the list last year. He jumps all the way up to number 31, leapfrogging Colton Cowser and Heston Kjerstad. He's at number 34. Then Colton Cowser at 41. Kjerstad at 90. I'm sorry, Cowser.
You're reading it a little left.
Yeah, Mayo is 25. Cowser 34. Kjerstad 41, and DL Hall at 93. For some reason, I wrote these rankings with the number first, and in all the rankings, the number is second.
I don't know. I'm just gonna blame Bruce being on your lap for that one. You're good.
Yeah, well, he's not getting as much attention because of the baby, so I figure I'll let him stay there a little bit longer.
Yeah.
But like I said, 3rd straight year, the Orioles have the number 1 overall prospect in baseball. Jackson Holliday, we talked last week about how Brian Kenny put him on his top 10 shortstops right now, although he's going to spend the majority of the year playing second base probably. Jackson Holliday, do you have expectations that he'll be on the Orioles opening day roster?
I do at this point. I mean, there's no reason to believe that he shouldn't be. If this team is really about putting their best foot forward and trying their hardest to win every game, then Jackson Holliday's got to be in your lineup. He's too talented of a player. And I think when you look back at these number 1 prospects that the Orioles have had, Adley Rutschman in 2022, or Henderson in 2023, they both came up and immediately changed the landscape. We know his impact. Gunnar comes up and wins the Rookie of the Year. I have absolutely no reason to believe that Jackson Holliday won't also make an immediate impact. And it's exciting, man. But I don't want Orioles fans to take for granted how impressive it is that number one overall prospects on Baseball America's rankings. The only other team that's ever had 2 back-to-back was the St. Louis Cardinals. 1999, they had J.D. Drew. 2000 was Rick Ankiel. No other team has had 2 or more consecutive different players ranked number one overall. There have been players who have carried over year to year. Vladdy Jr., Wander Franco, guys like that have been the top prospect for 2 consecutive years. But in terms of a different guy taking that top spot, it's special. And not only that, Paul, the Orioles in the history of Baseball America's rankings since 1990, up until 2022, had never had 2 top 10 prospects in the same ranking. And now they have, for 3 consecutive years,
That's
2 guys
awesome.
in the top 10.
That's
So it just, and hat tip to Steve Molesky on that one. I believe that was his tweet that I saw. But man, it's exciting. We've got some dudes coming up consistently, and I mean, gosh, it's hard not to be excited about that.
It could be 4 years in a row, because 8 of the 9 players ahead of Samuel Basallo on that list are expected to graduate to the major leagues this year. So if Samuel Basallo goes out and he has a monster season again this year, we could be looking at the 4th consecutive number 1 overall prospect. Your thoughts on Samuel Basallo, on what he's done and how he was one of the first 2 guys to ever get a 7-figure bonus signing bonus for international players, along with Michael Hernandez. And Michael Hernandez was supposed to be the top guy out of those 2. We don't even hear about him. And meanwhile, Samuel Basallo is tearing things up. He's number 2 catching prospect in baseball.
Yeah, you never really know with these guys who are being signed at 16, 17 years old. But Basallo's, his rise has been meteoric, I guess is the term for it. But I'm glad you brought up the guys ahead of him, because I was looking at it as well. For me, there's 2 guys I expect to still be on this list next year. There's Dylan Cruz and Ethan Salas. I don't think either of them graduate this year personally. Obviously, that could change. I mean, Salas is at 17. I don't think he's making it to the bigs yet. But Dylan Cruz could be a fast riser, but was just drafted last year, so we'll see about that one. But the rest of the guys on that list, like you said, Paul, are expected to graduate. So Basallo could be number 3 just by default in that sense. Now, jumping Ethan Salas and Dylan Cruz would be a tough task. They're both very, very talented players. Salas, one of the best catching prospects we've seen in a long time. But there is absolutely a shot that if Basallo continues this upward trajectory, he is sitting in the top spot again next year for the 4th consecutive Oriole at number 1. Now, there are a couple things that there's. I'll give you one thing that I think needs to happen for it to happen, and then one thing that I think could hold him back from being that top spot. What I think would bode well for him is if he improves behind the plate. The only knock on Basallo's game is his defense. If he can become at least average, if not a little bit above average at the catcher position, I think you're looking at a much more well-rounded prospect instead of just a guy whose bat is going to carry him. And I think that would bode well in the rankings. Now, on the flip side of that, there has been some talk, from what I understand, of Basallo moving to first base. Baseball America, since 1990, when they started their rankings, has never ranked a first baseman number 1 overall. So should the Orioles move Basallo to first base to start working him over there, and then he becomes qualified as a first baseman, I think that might hold him back a little bit, because the offensive profile is out of this world for a catcher. It's just, I would say, pretty good for a first baseman. Very good, I'll say. I don't want to shortchange the guy, but you expect your first baseman to hit. You don't necessarily expect your catchers to hit. So if he can become a better defensive catcher, stick at that position, and keep the offensive profile where it is, as opposed to sliding over to first base and decreasing a little bit of his value on the offensive side, I think there's a really good shot he could be that.
No matter what happens, even if he's not the number, and it's a tall task for him to be that, for any franchise to have 3, let alone 4 top number 1 overall prospects in baseball 4 years in a row. He's still going to be a hell of a player. We're really looking forward to it. And to have him and Adley Rutschman on a big league roster at the same time would be absolutely phenomenal. So it's definitely something that's going to be exciting and definitely worth keeping track of as this season progresses. Kobe Mayo, number 25 overall. This is a guy who he went bananas last season. He had 29 home runs. What was it? He had 40 plus doubles. I know that he had 299 between 2 levels. The Orioles, they are very reluctant to give him up for anything right now. How much time do you think he gets at the big league level this year? or do you think that he's going to be blocked?
The dude mashes. You got to find a place in your lineup for a guy that mashes the way Kobe Mayo does. With that being said, I thought we were going to see a lot of Joey Ortiz last year. I thought we were going to see a good bit of Connor Norby last year. And I feel the same way about Kobe Mayo coming into 2024. I think we see a lot of him, but that might not necessarily be the case. They might not have space for the guy. I mean, I think they're considering moving him around a little bit, maybe playing a little left field, a little right. There's maybe some talk about moving him to first base, but I think his arm is too good to be wasted over there personally. And he's a good enough defender at the corner. Look, he's a dude. We talk about dudes on this team. Kobe Mayo is absolutely a dude. He's a horse. And you got to be able to find a spot for him. I'm not sure, just purely based on the guys that are already here, I'm not sure how much time he gets in the bigs. But when he does make it up, man, I'm excited to see him tackle, what do we call it? Mount Baltimore? Is that, yeah. I want to see him hit some tanks over that wall. So, I mean, made it up to AAA last year, hit very well.
Yeah, I think we all do. It's just a matter of how you're going to make room for it. And then you look at guys like Holton Cowser at 34, Heston Kjerstad at 41, and the White Sox are apparently asking for one of those two for Dylan Cease, and the Orioles don't want to do it. Now, everybody seems to be willing to trade Holton Cowser, and I'll put myself in that boat. Because of how I think it's because of how bad he was when he got to the major league level. I mean, he was awful at the plate.
It's easy as a fan to sour on guys like that. So I know.
Yeah,
I know
I
what
feel
you're
like
saying.
that's.
And I think some fans kind of feel the same way about Joey Ortiz too, because he wasn't.
I have a lot of faith in Joey Ortiz because I think that bat played too well at the minor league level, and I think that the glove is special. Right with Colton Cowser, I thought he took circuitous routes in the outfield. He seemed to be lost at the plate, but I think that he was lost in the same way that Gunnar was lost to start last year, where he was just kind of guessing up there. So he was trying to use his eye to get himself into at bats, and they're just burying the strike zone the entire at bat. Next thing you know, he's out.
I think part of the problem too with both Cowser and Gunnar Henderson, they're very selective at the plate. And, good at seeing the ball, drawing walks when needed. And I think a part of it was they were trying too hard to get the pitch that they wanted. And the fact of the matter is, in the major leagues, you're probably not going to get the pitch you want in any given at bat. You might get it once a game, and then you have to attack. But I think it was, a little bit of, being a little too selective, trying too hard to find their pitches. Cowser, had a lot of swing and miss. So it's an adjustment period for sure. I still believe in Cowser. I still believe in Ortiz. But, I mean, look, you got to give up somebody if you want to acquire an ace. And Cowser might be that guy.
Exactly. And then Heston Kjerstad, I think we all want to keep him because when he makes contact, it's loud. It is loud. He has power. Like, not just power, light tower power, as they say. I did the quotes, but you couldn't see them on light tower power. The light tower power.
Too wide.
He's got that to all fields. This is a guy who just absolutely hits the hell out of the baseball. And so I think every Orioles fan kind of envisions him as somebody who's going to be hitting 4 in their lineup for years to come. So they don't want to get rid of that guy. And like you said, you've got to trade something to get something. And if I'm trading between the two of those guys, I'm trading the guy who I saw struggle the most, and I'm not trading the guy who I think is going to hit 30 to 40 home runs every year. So for me, it's if it's one of those two, it's Cowser.
I agree. I'm still the game when I was standing in line for chicken tenders when Heston Kjerstad hit his first big league home run, and I think we were down 7-0 at that point. It was just one of those games. I think they were being no hit. I think so. Yeah. They were.
I was at that game too.
And I remember, I remember standing in line and, hearing the crowd reaction, and I could kind of see one of the TVs. And I was like, I couldn't really tell who it was at first. Gunnar and Heston both kind of have a little bit longer hair, and I saw him rounding a base, and I was like, oh, Gunnar just homered. Cool. And then I saw the number on the back. I was like, oh, Kjerstad homered. The first exciting thing to happen in this 7-0 game in the 6th inning or 7th inning, whatever it was. And I'm standing here trying to get chicken tenders.
Well, the concessions were about to close, man. You had to jump on your opportunity.
Yeah, but that's all to say. I want to see Kjerstad hit a home run in person.
It was a majestic shot to right center. I was there. I was watching it, and it was awesome. It sucked that was like the Orioles' only hit and run that game, but it was still
Yeah.
cool to see. And then DL Hall at number 93, he's still somehow on this top 100 prospects list because he still has prospect status despite spending time in the major leagues each of the last 2 seasons. How much of this is based upon him being a starter as opposed to a reliever? Is it just him overall? Whatever role he fills, they think that he's still good enough to be a stud.
Yeah, I don't know, man. You don't see a lot of guys projected to be relievers on top prospect lists. And DL has come up and he's shown us a lot. His peripheral numbers are a lot better than his career ERA. Look, I don't know. I mean, he's hanging around, clearly. He's been in the 80s or 90s, it seems, for the last 4 years on both Pipeline and Baseball America. And that may be a little bit of an exaggeration, but I mean, look, he's got the stuff. He's always had the stuff. It's just a matter of staying healthy. And his inability to stay healthy is why he's been on this list for so long. And look, if they make him a starter, I think he's a top 40 prospect. If he's a long-term starter and he's healthy, I think he's too good to not have a top 40 or top 50 prospect kind of career, if that makes sense. If he's a reliever, he could be Josh Hader. And Josh Hader just got a 5-year, $95 million contract.
He can still get paid.
So, yeah. So, look, there's a spot for a guy like Hall on a top prospect list, even if his role is going to be up in the air. He's just too talented.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And look, I'm still one of the few remaining that wants to see the Orioles make him a starter. I'm still one of the few remaining, and maybe that ship has long sailed. But I think he's got.
Do you think? I'm curious your mindset on that. Do you think that's because we went through the cavalry and then we went through Gausman and Bundy, and now we looked at Grayson Rodriguez and DL Hall as that next 1-2 punch, and all the guys before it never seemed to work out, and now we've got Grayson, and you want Hall to be part of that list? Because that's kind of how I feel personally. I don't want to give up on Hall as a starter.
There's something to that, because you look at Bundy, and he was supposed to be the greatest high school pitcher of all time, and then he gets to the major leagues. He debuts in 2012 after being drafted. What was it, in 2011? Debuts in 2012 at the end of the season. Then he has Tommy John surgery. He doesn't get his first big league strikeout till 2016. Kevin Gausman was really, I love Kevin Gausman. They just messed with him too much. Up and down, up and down, up and down. Like, put the guy in a rotation and and leave him there, And then, and then they traded him because, And then you look at Cody Sedlock. That's the name that you didn't mention, who's not even in the organization where they got traded to Detroit like 2 years ago. And Hunter Harvey, who was drafted in the first round, and now he's become a reliever, and he's been a solid reliever. But when he stays healthy, he had a really nice year last year for the Nationals. There's something to that where it's like, look, it was supposed to be Grayson and DL, and the stuff is filthy, and DL's supposed to have better stuff than Grayson. I had Ryan Ripken on this show last year when we were a 2.5-hour show, and he said, Grayson, when you faced him, you felt like you had more of a chance because you knew what was coming. You just couldn't hit it. With DL, he embarrassed you. You would stand up there, and the next thing you know, you've struck out, and you have no idea what just happened because he embarrassed you. And that's for me, it's a little column A, like what you just mentioned. And then it's a little column B where he is so damn good. He's got 4 pitches that he can throw for strikes that are just nasty. And he's a left-handed pitcher on top of that. You give me that rotation with DL Hall performing to the best of his ability along with Grayson Rodriguez and Kyle Bradish and John Means. Oh my God, man, it gives me chills. Like it would be nuts. I know he's likely going to be a back-end reliever for them, and he flourished in that role, especially in the playoffs this past season. But give me him as a starter. But if Tyler Wells weren't there, I'd have more confidence in it. But I think Tyler Wells is going to get that number 5 starter spot if the Orioles don't acquire another starting pitcher. But also don't discount Dean Kramer being sent away in a trade. I'm just saying, that's a guy who hit 13 wins last year. He's a guy who had an ERA of 3.58 from May 1st on, back-to-back seasons of really solid posting up every 5th day. I think that Dean Kramer could be part of a trade if the Orioles are looking to get a big league starter in return. But DL Hall for me, I want that dude in the Orioles rotation, even though I don't think it's going to happen. What I do think is going to happen is that for the playoff football, no playoff football watch party is complete without Royal Farms world famous chicken. I know I'm going to get me some Royal Farms chicken on my way to my buddy's house to watch the Ravens today. I'm going to get that 8-piece mix for just $12. Or if I'm feeling froggy and I want to jump, I'm going to get that 10-piece dark for just $15 at my neighborhood Royal Farms. Visit your neighborhood Royal Farms for all the deals today for the Ravens playoff football game. Ryan, switching gears here a little bit. Orioles announced their 2024 International Signing Class. 19 players signed, led by shortstop Emilio Sanchez, outfielder Steven Martinez, shortstop Elvin Garcia, shortstop Himone Noel, I think that's how you say it, right-handed pitcher Yaki Mondesir, outfielder Angel Garcia, and right-handed pitcher Esteban Mejia. You did a little bit of a scouting report on these guys. And when I say scouting report, you read up on them a little bit. So,
yeah, I cheated a little bit. Orioles Player Development tweeted a thread of scouting reports on these guys. So I just kind of pulled from that. I haven't had a chance to really break down any video quite yet on these guys. Signed. But yeah, and who am I to not trust what Orioles Player Development has to say about
So let's
them?
start with Emilio Sanchez, who's supposed to be the top pick of the class for the Orioles. 16-year-old shortstop, he's a left-handed hitter, signed for $1.3 million. What do you got on him?
He's a left-handed hitting shortstop. The Orioles have him as a chance to be a solid everyday player, capable of plus offense. And I did note when they showed little video clips with these scouting reports, and we talked about Heston Kjerstad and the ball sounding different off the bat. Sanchez, when he makes contact, it's got a different kind of sound to it, and so that's something that I got a little excited about. He's got a large frame, athletic build, lots of room to fill out, which basically means he looks like a guy who's going to grow into exactly. And then he's got a loose swing with good extension and bat speed. I noticed that as well. Look, he's the top bonus getter in this pool. Last year it was Luis Almeida who got hurt. Before that, we've seen Michael Hernandez, other guys who haven't really made much of an impact. And I said before, you never know with these 16, 17-year-old guys how they're going to work out. Some of them are going to be in top 10 prospect lists in a few years. Others are never going to make it past low A. So it's really hard to make that decision. But you know what? It's exciting that we're focused on this market now. A few years ago, we were finally getting ourselves into the market, and it was exciting just to have guys. And now it's getting to the point where it's like, all right, well, are we getting good guys? And Sanchez, I believe, was ranked number 30 on MLB Pipeline's, international prospect list. So the Orioles didn't go out and get any of the top, 25, top 10 guys, but they're getting a lot more depth and guys.
That this player development team is going to turn some of these guys into top guys. It's just going to happen. They did it with Samuel Basayo in 2 years.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so moving down the list, Steven Martinez. He's a 16-year-old outfielder, right-handed hitter. He got a $950,000 bonus. The scouting report has him as an athletic right fielder with the chance to be a 5-tool player, a cannon arm with proper mechanics and online carry. I did see some of his throws, and he throws darts. And he's one of the youngest players in the class. A lot of 16-year-olds, but he's on the younger end. Elvin Garcia is a switch-hitting 16-year-old outfielder. He got a $500,000 bonus. Chance to be an everyday shortstop, a good approach at the plate with solid bat-to-ball skills, and fluid and effortless in his action. I was looking at the video. I noticed a little bit of a hitch in his swing. His shoulders seem kind of tight, which could be a good thing for him because it creates an easier bat path to the ball. But he also looked a little tense. So I'm wondering if that's something that could quickly be altered, and maybe he'll have a little bit more fluidity in his swing. And ideally, that wouldn't impact his bat-to-ball skills. But just something I noticed when looking at the video of him. Himon Noel, he introduced himself in the video as Himon Brown. So maybe he'll start going by that soon. Another switch hitter, 16-year-old shortstop, also a $500,000 bonus. Good feel for the barrel. He can see spin. That's always good when you're 16 years old and you can identify a breaking ball or a fastball out of the hand and make adjustments accordingly. Swing goes direct to the ball. Fun to watch. Plays the game with good energy. A plus runner, aggressive on the bases. The scouting report said, will steal some bags. So, hey, if he could become a little bit more of a hitter, you got a guy with speed already. Add a bat to that, you're looking good. Yakim Mondesir, 17-year-old right-handed pitcher, throws hard, projected to be a flamethrower. His fastball at this point touches 94 miles an hour, but as these guys get older, they typically add a few ticks to their fastball. Chance to be a great arm in the bullpen with a strong fastball curveball combo. I was looking at his mechanics a little bit in the video. He's got some really good torque, lands hard, follows through, and the shoulder rotation looked like it was. I kind of equate it. The mechanics aren't necessarily similar, but in terms of the shoulder itself, I kind of noticed a little bit of Madison Bumgarner where it goes back smooth and it doesn't look like there's any real serious stress on that shoulder. It was a fluid motion. So I like that for him in terms of, longevity. And the curveball does have some drop to it. So there's some excitement there for Mondesir. Angel Garcia is a right-handed 17-year-old outfielder, potential everyday player in the big leagues, whips his bat through the zone, generates plenty of raw power, strong ability to drive the ball out to the big part of the field. Don't really have anything much to add to that, but another young guy with a chance to be something. And then last but not least on our list, Esteban Mejia, another right-handed pitcher. He is 16 years old, will have power and pitch ability, throws strikes and competes, has a great mound presence, will clock 100 miles per hour with solid average pitches. Now, Paul, I don't know if that means in the future he will hit 100 miles per hour or if right now his max is 100 miles per hour. If he's throwing 100 right now as a 16-year-old, number one, that's terrifying because I think he's going to hurt himself. But number two, he could be throwing 105 in a few years once he fills out a little bit. So it's hard to really tell. And then I noticed in the video, it looked like the velocity of a fastball, but it had some good glove side run to it. Almost looked like a hard cutter. So that could be a solid secondary offering for him as well. So little synopsis. Thank you to Orioles Player Development for tweeting that out. So I had less research to do, but I tried to add a few things of my own in there. But yeah, man, it's nice to have an exciting international class once again. A market that we used to neglect for the longest time in the Duquette era and the McPhail era. And we've got Elias now. We've got a brand new facility in the Dominican Republic, $14 million facility that was, I believe, just opened this past week. 25 million. All right, that's higher than the original number I saw. But yeah, man, it's exciting. These guys are going to have a place that's centered around the Orioles and the Orioles philosophy. Iron sharpens iron. And these guys are going to work together. They're going to become friends. And it's going to be awesome to see these guys start to climb through the system. We won't see any in the bigs for several years, but we might see some on top prospects.
Yeah, that's why it's hard to get excited about the international class because they're usually 16, 17 years old, and you're not expecting to see them until, they're in their early 20s. So you're talking 5, 6, 7 years at times. But you look at guys like Juan Soto and Ronald Acuna Jr. and Fernando Tatis and Vladdy, and these guys are coming from the international signing slot, and the Orioles were never players in that. So to see them in there now, and now they have a guy like Samuel Basallo, who they got from that international signing period, who could be a big time player for them in the very near future. It's just exciting that they're not just dipping their toes in, they're jumping full in right now. And then they opened that Dominican Republic Academy this past Tuesday. And you saw former Orioles who weren't Orioles for long, but they were still there, like Vladimir Guerrero Sr., Nelson Cruz, Hanser Alberto was there, Felix Bautista was there. Jorge Mateo was supposed to be there, but he ended up not being able to make it. But it's just cool.
Don't forget
Ubaldo Jimenez. Apparently he was there. I didn't see him in the picture. But it's just really cool that the Orioles have these guys who they weren't here for long, but they're down there, supporting the team, supporting the Dominican Academy. It's just something really cool.
Yeah, and they're going to be good ambassadors for this team too. They're going to help these young guys along the way. I would imagine some of them will be involved in some capacity. I'm not expecting Vladimir Guerrero Sr. to take a job as a player development guy in the Dominican Summer League. But with that said, I think there are guys who are going to be, available for advice, pick my brain, all that fun stuff. So yeah, man, it's cool to have a lot of excitement built around this international class because it seems like 5 years ago when we were looking at the Juan Sotos and the Ronald Acuñas, it was like, why don't we have any of these guys? Why have we ignored this market that's generating these electrifying, ungodly talented players. And we had, like, I think our big international sign, like we got Wei and Chen from Taiwan,
Jonathan
which
Scope.
is great. We had Jonathan Scope from the Netherlands. Yeah. So look, Curacao. But yeah, man, like it's good that we have our toes in this firmly now. I still wish we would make more of a run at some of these guys coming over from Japan. We see people. Oh, I'm glad I brought that up, because one thing I didn't mention earlier, when we were talking about Samuel Basayo, if Roki Sasaki gets posted next offseason, I think he's without a doubt the number one prospect on Baseball America's rankings.
I don't think international players
unbelievable pitcher. Only if they are. There's some new qualification where it's international professionals, but I saw a blurb when I was looking at something after they released this prospect list that if he posts next year, he will be eligible for the prospect list. So he's a guy who could keep Basayo from that number one spot. But, I just wanted to say that, I wish the Orioles would, try a little harder in that market too, because these guys come over and they're insanely talented as well. But I guess maybe philosophically we still don't participate.
Philosophically, we have a butthead owner who just doesn't want to spend money. So, like, I don't pull punches with him on this show because F. John Angelos, I hate him. I think he's the worst owner, maybe in professional sports at this point. Now that Dan Snyder's gone, and he's not even the owner. He's
I don't know. David Tepper seems like a piece of work.
He does.
The Carolina Panthers, but I mean, look, we've dealt with the Angelos family for my entire life. I want them,
dude.
And
the thing is, man, please. Peter Angelos, you can say what you want about John Miller and Davey Johnson and how, he let the Orioles lose for 14 years. The dude spent money. He made Palmeiro and Cal Ripken two of the highest paid. I think Cal at one point was the highest paid player in baseball. Palmeiro was like number 2 behind him. The Orioles had a top 5 payroll, including number 1 a couple of times from 1996 through 1999. Actually, I think through 2000. He went out and he signed, like I said, he signed Albert Bell, gave Scott Erickson big money, gave Adam Jones, Chris Davis, Nick Markakis, Brian Roberts big money. He signed Tejada. He signed Palmeiro again. He signed Javi Lopez, and those 3 were big signings in 2000, heading into 2004. The guy spent money. John Angelos just wants to collect money and stuff it into his own pockets and worry about getting – when winning baseball games is third on your list of priorities as an owner, there's an issue there. There's an absolute issue there. And like the fact that the Orioles, with the lowest payroll in baseball and the second most wins in baseball, weren't even rumored to be in on Yamamoto or Josh Hader, which both of those guys would have filled huge needs for this team. It's just mind-blowing to me that, more people aren't jumping down this dude's throat right now about this. He's a joke. He's a travesty. I get so heated about it because you have one of the best young teams in baseball, and you're doing jack shit to make this team a World Series contender. I can't stand it.
Yeah, and you can say a lot of things about Peter Angelos. I don't think you can say he was cheap. He, like you said, he did spend money. A lot you could say about the guy, but I mean, the whole notion that he was cheap, I think, was fabricated a bit. John Angelos is
cheap.
He doesn't care. He simply doesn't care. He didn't sign up to be the owner of a Major League Baseball team. He was given that opportunity because his father couldn't do it anymore, and family drama, whatever. But gosh, yeah, I go to Nashville, live your life out there. I don't want to see or hear from John Angelos.
Dude, and it started on Martin Luther King Day last year. Just talking about how he wants, like, I'll open the books for you, but we're not going to talk about this on today of all days. Get the hell out of here. Shut the hell up.
Yeah. Have some perspective, Dan Connolly. This is MLK Day. I called a press conference to talk about the community. I'm only the owner of the Orioles, and I haven't spoken to the media about the Orioles in 2 years. But not today, Dan. Not today, when I've brought all of you in front of me whose jobs it is to report about the Orioles. Nope, not today, not on MLK Day.
And
Give
then
me a
the Kevin Brown situation, and then trying to steal the thunder of the Orioles clinching by saying, oh, we agreed to a lease, and then 3.5 months later, it still hasn't happened. It finally did happen. 3 months later, it finally did happen. But that's got a caveat to it too, where it's 15 years instead of 30. If the Orioles don't get the development rights for around the stadium. It's just joke after joke after joke. And it's like, as good as this team can be, you don't have confidence that they're going to stay there beyond. You don't have confidence that Gunner's going to be here, Jackson's going to be here, Rutschman's going to be here 5 years from now, because you don't think your owner's going to pay. Please, for the love of God, sell the team to Rubenstein or somebody who's
anybody
willing
else.
to put time and money into this team instead of a guy.
Sell it to me. I'll go into serious debt that my great grandchildren won't be able to pay off. Give me the team.
Just
John.
give them to me. Give them to
me. We could Paul, we could turn every single show into a screw John Angelos kind of show. I think that's both of our opinions of that.
I just love that somebody else will get on this platform with me and get heated like I will about John Angelos and just go on a tangent. Because, God, I don't hate many people. I can strongly dislike people. I don't hate many people. I hate John Angelos. I hate him. He's a bitch. I hate John Angelos. Like,
I think it's because he's in charge of something that we care so deeply about. That's what it is. That's why that level goes from dislike to hate. It's because he is the one who is running the show on something that we spend 8 months out of the year, 12 if we're doing a year-round show about the team. But, 7 to 8 months of a year with scheduling our lives around this team, and he's the guy in charge, and he's doing a terrible job of it. That's why that level goes from dislike to genuine hatred.
And then, God, the guy's got hundreds of millions of dollars. And he shows up to spring training last year wearing a Target bought outfit, looking like a little chode out there. It's your owner. You see most owners show up in a nice button down and a blazer and nice pants with expensive shoes. He shows up in some Asics with some cargo pant khakis and a Target bought button down that's unbuttoned, and it's wrinkled. Just standing there looking like an idiot. That's our owner that people see on a national scale. That's our owner. Get out of here.
At least he doesn't have Mark Davis's haircut.
He doesn't have the hair to
I'll
have
give
that
John
haircut,
Angelos.
man. I'm not one to talk. I've got a receding hairline. I'm certainly not one to talk, but I mean, his hairline's like back where the top of my headphones are. He doesn't have the hair for it. If it's not one thing, it's another. Maybe he'll get himself some hair plugs and start looking like Joe Buck or something. I don't know. But Joe Buck lost his voice for 6 months after getting hair plugs. Did you know that? Yeah, he was on Conan O'Brien like a decade ago, and he talked about how he got hair plugs. And maybe it wasn't 6 months, maybe it was 3 months or 3 weeks. But he said the side effect from getting hair plugs, he lost his voice, and he was like nervous he was never going to come back. So Joe Buck, hair plugs. Wow. Anyway, off on a tangent here.
That went off the rails.
If you or a loved one has a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit helpmygamblingproblem.org for free confidential services today. Ryan, before we talk a little bit of Ravens here, you mentioned the Astros signed Josh Hader 5 years, $95 million. John Heyman has come out, and he's not the only source I've seen say this, but he's the most prominent one who said that he thinks the White Sox are likely to hold on to Dylan Cease until the trade deadline. First, your thoughts on Hader signing with the Astros, and then your thoughts on potentially the White Sox holding on to Dylan Cease since nobody seems to want to meet their asking price.
Yeah, I mean, look, Hader was the best reliever on the market. He was always going to get the most money, and the Orioles weren't going to be involved in the bidding process. It's as simple as that. It would have been awesome to have Hader come in and replace Felix Bautista, but now the Astros have a dominant 7th, 8th, 9th inning. They're playing 6-inning games now with the offense and the rotation that they have. I think it makes the Astros that much scarier. But with that being said, I do think that, and we've talked about it before, and you're not going to replace Felix Bautista unless you go out and sign a Josh Hader. But with the return of Dylan Tate and the addition of Craig Kimbrell, it helps a little bit, at least to take the pressure off the back end of that bullpen. But we've also talked a lot about DL Hall. Maybe DL Hall is the next Josh Hader. Maybe he's closing games by midseason.
Maybe.
You never know. And regarding Dylan Cease, look, I can't say I blame the White Sox for having that mindset. We've seen time and time again the market for pitching at the trade deadline is typically way better than it is in the offseason, simply because teams know exactly what they need at that point in the season. They know when they need to make moves to get to that next step, whether it's to push for a division title or a playoff berth or whatever it may be. I hate it as an Orioles fan who wants Dylan Cease on his team on opening day, but I get it from the White Sox perspective. They have an asking price. They have stood firm on it. They have not gotten what they want. Maybe when teams are a little more desperate in the middle of the season, they can get the guys that they want in return. So I don't like it, but I completely get it from the White Sox
I get it too. I just, come on, man. Maybe just give them to us.
Yeah. Let me have a
Why
little
do you need him? You don't need him. You're going to win like 60 games. You're good. Just give him to us. Give us Dylan Cease. Just give him to us. Give it to me. What's that? What's that?
I think you should leave the professor at dinner.
I don't know that one. I'm talking about what's it? From The Office, when Dwight is trying to get Michael to give him control of the office while he's trying to make this decision about who gets raises and whatnot. And Dwight says, "I deserve this power." He said, "Give it to me. Give it to me, Michael. Give it to me."
Right. Yeah. I was thinking of I think you should leave is a scene where they're like meeting with an old professor having dinner, and the professor likes what's on the other guy's plate, and he's like, I should have gotten that. He's like, let me have a bite. Let me have a bite. And then he's just like, give me that.
I think you should leave. What movie is that? Who's in that?
It's the Netflix series Tim Robinson, the sketch comedy show.
Oh, I haven't.
55 burgers, 55 fries, 55 shakes.
I haven't watched that yet. I haven't watched that yet. I'm watching Loudermilk right now on Netflix.
Well, you got to start watching. I think you should leave so you can relate to Adley Rutschman a little more because he quotes that.
I'm gonna have to check it out. If I know Adley's watching, I like Adley's sense of humor.
Dude, the MLB posted a video of him, like it was like a compilation of him in the weight room, and he was just quoting that show the entire time.
Man. That's like,
it was great.
Adley's sense of humor. When they were celebrating clinching the playoffs or something like that, he was talking, I think, to maybe Kevin Brown, and he was doing the Paul Rudd, like, "Do you believe we're here? I don't. Look at us now," type of thing. And I don't think, and
who would have thought
Kevin did not get what he was doing. So it just looked like Adley was just being like this weird guy. And it was so funny because I've done so many jokes where people have no idea what the hell I'm talking about. And I just related to him so much in that moment. It made me just have that much more love in my heart for him. So
I'm upset that I missed that. I can't believe I didn't see it. Were you at that game?
No, I went the night before. I went the night before my best friend Adam, who I'm watching the Ravens game with today. And we watched them. We watched Grayson dominate, and we watched the Orioles win. But Tampa Bay won that night too, so the Orioles didn't clinch, and then they clinched the next day, of course.
Right. So you were able to watch the post game locker room celebration and see all the videos on Twitter and all that. I was trying to play catch up when I got home, but you can only catch up on so much. So I must have missed.
Yeah, I don't think it was posted. That part was actually on television. Like I saw that on TV.
Okay.
But want to remind you, today's show brought to you by Goose Flex. Pressbox urges you to drink a beer or two in honor of Tony Saragusa. We've partnered with Guilford Hall Brewery to release Goose Flex, a delicious lager to honor Tony's legacy and how his family is continuing to celebrate him with Goose Flights Foundation. The Goose Flight Foundation is now run by Tony's kids and provides non-emergency medical transport to those in need. You can buy 6-packs and single cans of Goose Flights at Guilford Hall Brewery and Costas Inn, with single cans also available at the Glory Days Grill locations in Maryland. Raise a glass to Tony and support this great foundation. So go over to PressBoxOnline.com/GooseFlights to learn about more. All right, Ravens, Texans, 4:30 today. A lot of Texans fans coming out of the woodwork, Ryan, saying that now that Mark Andrews isn't playing and the way Derek Stingley played last – is that his name, Derek Stingley? Yeah, the way that he played last week, that he's going to cover Zay Flowers and take him out of the game, that the Ravens don't have any other options now, that they're going to be good. OBJ and Rashad Bateman and Isaiah Likely and Nelson Aguilar exist in the world today. And I know that none of those guys put up huge numbers. Likely was one of the best tight ends in football down the stretch. I think he scored 5 touchdowns the last 4 games. Those dudes are like legitimate playmakers. And we've seen it from OBJ at different points this year. We've seen Bateman be a solid possession receiver. Your thoughts on today's game? Do the Texans have the right to be beating their chests and walking proud? And do you think that there's a chance that the Ravens don't win today?
Yeah, I think there's a chance. Excuse me. I also think that the Texans have every right to come in beating their chests. And that's not to say anything negative about the Ravens. You have to have that mindset in the postseason, especially when you're the underdog. You have to come in thinking we are the team to beat, not you guys. It's us. You guys have the challenge today. If you don't have that mindset, you're not going to win a playoff game. So they absolutely have every right to feel that way. However, Texans fans seem to think that if they take Zay Flowers out of the game, it's over. Have you seen this offense work collectively over the last couple months? It's unbelievable. You can take Zay Flowers out and the team's going to be just fine. I'm actually trying to pull up here because I know there was a game when Zay Flowers, Jacksonville, Ravens blew out the Jags. Zay Flowers had one catch for 7 yards. The Ravens won that game. You can take Zay Flowers out. They've got other guys. And look, the Texans are a very good team. They're coming in on an incredible hot streak. They just won a playoff game against what was one of the best defenses in NFL history. Now they're coming out against another one of the best defenses in NFL history in the Ravens. By the way, a lot of talk about the Browns having an historically great defense this year. Meanwhile, the Ravens in the same division, who are the number 1 seed, got the defensive triple crown: most sacks, fewest points per game allowed, and fewest yards
most
allowed
sacks,
per game.
Most turnovers, most sacks, fewest points allowed. But also the Browns had the number one, I think the number 1 defense at home and number 32 ranked defense on the road.
Yeah, right. So look, CJ Stroud's a hell of a quarterback. They have a really good team around him. He's shown that he can be a playmaker. They've won, I think, 7 of their last 8 overall or something like that. The Texans are a good team. This is not going to be an easy game for the Ravens. With that said, I think the Ravens win by double-digit points.
I think
I really do. I think this Ravens team is different. I think Lamar has one singular focus, and that is winning a Super Bowl. And that's apparent in every single interview this guy has done. I don't care that we just beat the Dolphins by 37 points. I don't care that I'm the MVP frontrunner. I want this team to win a Super Bowl. That is all he cares about, and I think he's going to guide this team.
And I think that he's got the personalities to match that on defense now too, with Roquan and Kyle Hamilton. Those guys they're all pro players, 1, and 2, they know what's in front of them, and they've got that pride. They're like, oh, you think that you're going to come in here and you beat us in our house when we're the number 1 seed and the number 1 defense? That ain't happening. By the way, Zay Flowers has the same birthday as Ed Reed, so he was born for greatness. September 11th, 2000. But look, that we all feel that PTSD. We feel like the Ravens are stake bitten, especially when they play on Saturdays. They're 3-7 all time in Saturday playoff games, 13-5 in Sunday playoff games. Number 1 overall seed. They got that first round bye in 2019, and they laid an egg. But they laid an egg in that game against the Titans because their receivers dropped 7 passes, including on that first drive when the Ravens are marching down the field and the ball goes off Mark Andrews' hands and gets intercepted. The Ravens score a touchdown on that drive. I think that game ends differently. I really do. And
I agree.
You watch Seth Roberts with nobody within 15 yards of him. It would have been a 63-yard touchdown. Literally, the ball comes and hits him in his breadbasket and goes right through his hands and hits the turf. When
your wide receiver 2 is Seth Roberts, what do you expect?
Exactly. You've got legitimately all 4 of your wide receivers are first-round wide receivers right now. And your running game, you've got Dalvin Cook, who we think is going to be energized. And look, that offensive line in New York was terrible. You're not going to tell me that Dalvin Cook rushed for 1,100-plus yards 4 years in a row, and then all of a sudden he can't play football anymore. You're not going to tell me that Breece Hall, who had a down year just after 1 season, can't play football anymore. I think Dalvin Cook is going to be a huge shot of energy to the Ravens today. And, it sucks that Mark Andrews isn't playing because he's Mark Andrews. But if he can get that 1 extra week to be healthy, the Ravens can win the game. I mean, they have him in the AFC Championship game. Look out. Like, I have a lot more. And it's crazy because in 2019, I was so confident about this team and thinking 14-2, they've won 12 straight games. They've been running roughshod over everybody. They've been blowing everybody out. Lamar's the MVP. they're going to the Super Bowl. And then they lay an egg in the divisional round. I don't think that's going to happen today. I don't think that they're going to blow the doors off the Texans. I don't think it's going to be 56-19 like it was against the Dolphins. But I think that everybody's like, oh, we got to play the Texans. We got to play C.J. Stroud. The Texans have to play the Ravens. They have to play the MVP and the number one defense in football. Like let's not.
That's a point that I've been trying to make all season is, look, we had this stretch that we called it a gauntlet for the Ravens, where they had to go face Jacksonville, San Francisco, and Miami in consecutive weeks. And it was like, all right, this is going to be a tough stretch for the Baltimore Ravens. They're playing against 3 teams that are currently leading their divisions. 2 of them, in the Dolphins and the Niners, have a case for the best team in football. Like, this is not going to be easy. The Ravens might lose 1 or 2 of these games. People forget, Paul, those teams are looking at the Ravens on the schedule and saying, oh, shoot, we have to play them. It's a two-way street. So, look, and the Ravens swept those 3 games. So, look, the Texans are a very good team. I think they're coming into what's going to be a very hostile environment. Ravens fans are loud, especially in the playoffs. I think it's going to be tough on the Texans to really find their groove. It wouldn't surprise me if they have a couple stretches where they, put some points on the board, but give me Ravens 27-16.
All right. I think the Ravens are going to come out juiced up. That stadium is going to be loud. If they go on defense first and they get a 3-and-out, that place is going to go nuts. I'm going to say Ravens are going to win this game. Give me 41-21 Ravens. No. You know what? No, because there's going to be times when the Texans get in the red zone, the Ravens aren't going to blink. Give me 41-24. 41-23 Ravens, because the Texans are going to score 2 touchdowns and kick 3 field goals. Give me 41-23 Ravens. Okay. Lamar has already put a stamp on the MVP, but he's going to remind everybody who the hell he is. Who was that guy who looked like somebody posted, they were so accurate. This guy looks like he's a children's party magician. Who was that guy? What's that? Nick Wright. Saying, I trust
he said
more than Lamar Jackson.
Get out of here, dude. That dude just consistently has awful takes. All he cares about is engagement. Look, the one concern that I have, and Paul, you talk about how big of a momentum shift it would be if the Ravens come out on defense and force a 3-and-out. What happened in Dallas?
Yeah.
The Packers win the coin toss. They elect to receive. Matt LaFleur makes that call. We're going to receive the ball. And then they drive down the field and score a touchdown right in Dallas's faces. That is a momentum swing as well. So I think the Texans have a shot if they score on their first possession and the Ravens do not. Because then it's, as we saw with Dallas, backs against the wall in a win-or-go-home game, prone to mistakes at that point. Dak threw at least 1 pick six, might have been 2, but at least a couple interceptions, and was playing from behind all game. So the Texans, if they want to have a chance to take down the Ravens today, I think need to score early. And
look, the Ravens, the only game they didn't lead at the 2-minute warning in the fourth quarter was their 4th preseason game, Week 18 against the Steelers. Like, that was the only game all year that they didn't lead at the 2-minute warning. They were, if they needed to win that game, they would have blown the doors off the Steelers. I was pulling for the Steelers again, not pulling for them, but I wanted them to win because I wanted to see the Ravens put up another 56 spot this week and just beat them like 56-6. It would have been awesome, but it just wasn't in the cards. But yeah, I think the Ravens have something for the Texans today. I am confident that the Ravens are going at the very least, going to the Super Bowl this season. Just want to remind everybody, today's show is brought to you by Project Game Day. We're talking about the Ravens. Project Game Day returns later today. You can join Glenn Clark, Rita Hubbard, and Femi Ayan-Badeja right here on these same press box pages for Project Game Day following Ravens Titans. Project Game Day is brought to you by Superbook Sports, AJ Michaels, and HelpMyGamblingProblem.org. Ryan, thanks for another great show. Thank you to all of our sponsors. Without you, we don't have a show. Thank you to all of our listeners. Without you, we certainly don't have a show. Go Orioles. Go Ravens. Until next week, hopefully we'll be talking about a Ravens victory and maybe an Orioles signing or trade. Who the hell knows? Until then, see ya.